Hi, my name is David Sampedro. I'm a board-certified civil trial attorney at Panter and Sampedro, and we handle cases involving negligence and wrongful death matters concerning automobile accidents, premises liability, medical malpractice cases. Oftentimes we receive phone calls regarding emotional distress cases or emotional distress claims, individuals who want to make a claim for emotional distress. And let's talk about those contexts. Because the courts typically do not favor those types of claims. They look at them with some suspicion, and they do try to make it relatively difficult to make a claim. The first type of emotional distress claim we will call, or the law calls, intentional infliction of emotional distress. And the fact is that these were the first types of emotional distress types of cases that were recognized by courts. These are very, very limited in certain circumstances and really are held under the most types of outrageous conduct. And again, it goes to intentional behavior where somebody intentionally tries to go out and cause somebody emotional distress. And there are some very minor circumstances where you can make that type of claim. The second one is called a negligent infliction of emotional distress. And courts all over the United States, and in particular Florida, have really grappled with this issue for a long time. And while they recognize that there are some circumstances where somebody might have emotional distress as a result of another person's negligence, the courts also try to avoid what they believe could wind up being frivolous lawsuits or speculative damages. They've really tried to limit the context that these types of cases can be brought. Oftentimes where you'll hear about these cases is where somebody might witness the death of a loved one as a result of somebody else's negligence. So where you may not be involved directly in the accident. For example, there's a very famous case where a mother saw her young child crossing the street and was run over and killed before her very own eyes by a negligent driver. Now, obviously, we're all going to recognize that under that circumstance, I'm sure that the mother had some significant emotional distress, but that's the type of context that we typically see it. We also see it sometimes in the situation where spouses might be injured as a result of somebody else's negligence, and the other spouse witnesses that type of injury to their loved one. So there's a lot of factors to consider before you can bring these type of cases. You have to have a close relationship. It has to be a spouse, and Florida recognizes it has to be, it would definitely have to be a legal spouse. In other jurisdictions, such as New Jersey, I know that it won't necessarily require them to be married, but that there still needs to be a close relationship. Florida requires you to have a physical impact in addition to having the emotional distress. They want to make sure that you sustained a physical impact, and this is one of the ways that they try to curtail or eliminate what they believe to be speculative or frivolous lawsuits. Other jurisdictions have this as well, and some jurisdictions recognize a very minimal threshold for an impact. There are some jurisdictions that recognize the inhalation of smoke to be a sufficient impact. Florida is a little bit more strict and makes it a little bit more difficult. The third aspect of emotional distress cases is really what they call pain and suffering. And that is when you yourself were injured and hurt. Obviously there's been an impact. There's been an injury. There's been a manifestation of those injuries as well. But you were the person who was injured. You were the direct victim of the negligence. And of course, under those circumstances, in addition to the pain and suffering, discomfort, mental anguish, you can bring an emotional distress, or the mental anguish part is certainly a component that can be considered. So these are all things to consider and to take into account when you are looking into and seeing whether you can make a claim for your emotional injuries. Thank you.